It's been a very weird time because, listen, I've always been down on games developers. My views on games developers are this. I think games developers are downstream from tech. They're even weirder than the average tech person, but they're also, to the same degree, the one thing they have in common is their ego and narcissism. I haven't met many games developers that don't think they're smarter than the people that play their games. I haven't met many games developers who don't think they're smarter than most people they interact with. And games developers, they're really weird. They have a tendency to sort of keep their own counsel and like interact with each other, and they'll sing each other's praises. But all the other people, modders, all the other people that like intersect with their video game, you're all pieces of shit that actually, as Mark Merrill once said to I Will Dominate, should almost feel lucky, like you owe them a career, you owe them a life, you owe all that enjoyment that you've ever took out of the game. You owe gratitude to them for making that game. And if you're not permanently in a state of gratitude towards them, you're a gamer chud that probably supported Gamergate or something. They just turn on a dime. Now, I'm not going to get into all of that, but I am going to get into, there is this weird trend of late where games developers are making unbelievably bad decisions and having to walk them back. And I'm going to write an article sort of summarizing all of this again when I get time. And it's just going to be called Consumers Stay Winning. Because one of the things I've always stood up for in the space, and I learned it from Total Biscuit, who was unironically a hero of mine. I learned it from him to stand up for consumers, even if it puts you in a spot where the games developers don't like it, right? And he did that consistently. He did that consistently, even though it would mean he wasn't going to get review codes, or he wasn't going to be included at launch dates, or he was going to face a lot of negative press from the same friendlies that cozy up to games developers. Because if you think the average political journalist is bad and corrupt, just know that all it takes to get the average games journalist to give up their morals is you offer them a free t-shirt and a few drinks at a launch party. They give it up for candy bars. So John was like always somebody that it was very clear what side he was always on, and it was always you guys. It was always the players. It was always the consumers. And what I realized was, because it was very eye-opening getting to know John, it was like the constant battles he used to have with legacy media was that they hated the fact that a YouTuber was essentially not only stealing their credibility just by being a more authentic voice, but also they hated the fact that he had found kudos among the people that flocked to his content because he always kept it real and he always kept it honest. And every time John said something, you knew it wasn't coming from a secret shady sponsorship or a handshake or a backroom deal or a sexual relationship or all the other murky bullshit that was going on in games journalism in 2013, 2014 and beyond, quite frankly. So what I realized was, oh yeah, actually, the fucking consumers, they do need more advocates. I assumed it was all okay. I thought the games journalists would never do you wrong because I only view journalism through the lens of my own brain, which is I wouldn't sell out my people for money, It's so gauche. It's like, ugh. It's pathetic. So what I learned from John, what I always think about, whenever I pick these fights in public is which battles do you need to fight? And it turns out quite a lot. But what I've been heartened to see in these recent months, as we're going to list, is the consumers now know what works for them. Maybe they don't need a YouTuber to stand up for them anymore. Although I will say with people like Mutahar and there's a ton now. I believe, is it Upper Echelon Gaming as well? There's like a CoffeeZilla. Oh, there's like so many advocates now for consumers in various digital spaces, and I'm obviously leaving out some big names there probably. But it's almost like you guys have learned this is what we can do to protect ourselves and to get the games devs to do the right thing by us. And there's just been so many examples lately that it did warm my heart. I thought, wow, actually, this is a really good time for consumers in video games, because even while games devs are trying to fuck you out of your money and offer you a substandard product, sell you broken video games, gouge you over DLC and microtransactions, battle passes, loot crates, they're doing all of this. You guys consistently find a way to push back and change the landscape. Maybe not all the way back, but to a more positive place than it would have been had you not. And I know it's tough. Consumer boycotts, again, just to be serious for a moment, consumer boycotts and mobilized activity, review bombing, coordinated protest, it's difficult and it's wearing. And also on top of that, like, you just want to play games. That's all we want to do. It's your spare time, and you've got a finite amount, and an increasingly finite amount as you get older and have more commitments, and then eventually infirmity and mortality are going to claim you. Fun on this mortal plane is limited, and I don't give a fuck about people that sort of try and denigrate people's fun. Fuck you. You should have fun while you're alive, and how you get your kicks, that's your business. And how you get your... And it's not just worthless procrastination because some guy with a beard said it's like being addicted to porn or whatever. It's not that. If you do what you want to fucking do, and you enjoy your time and your consciousness the way you want to enjoy it, and anyone that would take that from you is your enemy. It's as simple as that. There's nothing wrong with a bit of fucking recreation, right? And if you want to use your recreation time to play video games, maybe, do it. Have at it. It is important. It either matters or it doesn't, And I think it does matter. I think how you get to spend your free time is important. Very important. Very important, because, 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, 8 hours left, and I have to distribute that 8 hours between relationships and other commitments and all this other stuff, and maybe I get to play 2 hours of video games. I think you're entitled to that 2 hours. I wish it was longer. I think we weren't meant to live with that 8-8-8 division. I think that's wrong. So, obviously, I know it's tough when you just want to play a game you like, but the developer's a piece of shit. And so you should all feel pretty good and commend yourselves for making what is a small sacrifice, but a sacrifice nonetheless, to try and get these developers to turn their head around and make the product that you all like to consume mutually better for everyone. Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. Sometimes gamers are entitled babies. No joke. I've seen that. Esports fans, a lot of entitled babies over there. But this, what I'm about to talk about, it isn't that. So let's just start by doing something I've had the joy of getting to do a lot lately. And let's just shit on Bethesda. Always got time to shit on Bethesda, but it's just to remind you, right? Just to remind you, because everyone's talking about Tarkov and Helldivers. Oh, no. Bethesda, they'll never miss an opportunity to fuck up. So, let's start, right? I just want to remind everyone as to what they did. Obviously, they've had a Fallout TV show lately, right? Super popular. It's reinvigorated everyone's interest in the franchise. People are going back and exploring the older games that haven't played them, the better games, the only games that are canon. Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Fallout New Vegas, aka Fallout 3. Don't worry about the rest. Although I will add, I prefer Fallout Tactics to the Bethesda games. So just saying, maybe check that out. But anyway, it's been a good time. People who would never have ordinarily played a Fallout game have been directed into Fallout 4 and obviously their multiplayer online game, Fallout 76. And listen, I don't like Bethesda's imagining of the Fallout world, but you have to believe that as long as the franchise survives and is healthy, eventually we will get another good Fallout game. Law of averages, right? I might be dead by the time it happens, because I don't think it's going to be Fallout 5, guys. But on a long enough time scale, like Todd Howard is going to quit, and that writer is going to quit, or they're going to be overworked, and they're going to have to outsource, and then Obsidian they're back. Black Isle has been reformed to make Fallout New Vegas 2. It's going to be great. Something like that will happen, right? So who knows? On a long enough time scale, it's got to happen. So they wanted to capitalize on the interest in Fallout 4, which I believe came out in like 2015, and is therefore quite an old game at this stage. And so they did a next-gen update, is how they framed it. So the next-gen update, right? And what the next-gen update did was break everything, right? It broke everything. All the mods that you might like to use, all the future mods that were being developed, all of that, just gone, just fucked. Not their mods, not the mods you pay for, but not the ones in Creator Club. They were fine, but all the other mods, right? Anyway, people didn't even believe that it was actually a next-gen update, and this is from PC Gamer. And it says, looking at the update's patch notes, again, I get a feeling of unreality. There's a handful of bug fixes, fine, but then ultra-wide support that stretches the UI, which still requires a fan patch to fix, and nothing about a notorious crash glitch on RTX cards, the most widely used by PC gamers, according to Steam's hardware survey. This barn-sized target remains unaddressed after 6 years. And for those who don't know, yeah, with the RTX cards, you will just crash sometimes. I think it happens more on... they did an update where they implemented like a hardcore mode that isn't like the one from New Vegas, but it's an approximation. And after that update, you get a ton of crashes with the. I mean, it's a Bethesda game. You have to expect them to crash. It's just how it goes. But anyway, perhaps most crucially for this next-gen update, there are no graphical upgrades or changes on PC. There's not even a token ray tracing option that you'll never turn on. So what is next-gen about this update? This patch is a normal-sized, dare I say it, small update that fails to justify the amount of disruption it's caused. Now, it was close to 15 gigabytes, this update, and it did put some content in. You get one mission, right? You get some enclave mission, which that's the best they could come up with, I guess. I'm amazed it isn't Boy in the Fridge 2, Electric Goolaloo. This time he's trapped in an even bigger fridge. Can you get him out? I don't know. But anyway, so there's an enclave. They brought the enclave back. They put some enclave armor in, some enclave weapons. It's like, Bethesda. It's a Bethesda game. It doesn't count. Anyway, the patch also adds some small free DLC. That's what we're talking about here. User made as part of Bethesda's Creation Club paid mod initiative, but we're effectively getting these quests and items at the expense of a vast library of free quests, items, quality of life fixes, and more. If I had to choose between a small pack of premium goodies and access to a functionally infinite well of user-generated content, I would absolutely go for the latter every time. But as with the rest of the patch, nothing about these added Creation Club bits and bobs justifies the upheaval, and we shouldn't have to choose. And again, I couldn't agree more. It seems absurd. Like, it's so easy to get right, this, guys, because listen, maybe if you make a video game, you don't like the idea of mods. Like, for example, Riot Games would hate the idea of somebody coming along and making their game better, because if they didn't do it, it's an insult. That's how they think. And a lot of games developers, they're also kind of a bit, wary about mods. They don't want people to have this modded experience. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, there was something to do with Capcom recently where they stopped mods working with the game online or something. Again, it's FGC. I can't be arsed with that. But a lot of people were joking around that it happened after that fucking naked Chun-Li incident at a tournament, but I don't know. Ultimately, though, there are a lot of developers out there that are very precious about their creations, and they think modding is going to be a detractor. It's going to be a net negative, and of course, that's not true. In fact, I would even go so far as to say probably some of my favorite games of all time were enhanced massively by an active and healthy modding community. And I am not just talking about fixing bugs. I'm talking about expanding content, enhancing gameplay. And the idea that you can go and download these things for free. I've talked about this game a lot on stream. Jagged Alliance 2. Jagged Alliance 2, without the mods that came later, the vanilla experience isn't all that good. It's actually broken in some places. The Jagged Alliance 2 modded experience is unfucking believably good. And what I love about GOG.com, GOG.com, Good Old Games, is the way that they will even take these mods, these essential mods for the older games, and they package them in, which is something Steam doesn't do, and sometimes doesn't even always offer you a workshop option to go and get these mods direct in Steam. It's why for some older games, I would maybe even argue for most older games, Steam is actually not a desirable platform. If you see it on GOG and you see it on Steam and it's a game from the 90s or the early noughties, probably go for the GOG option would be my advice. So Bethesda have always existed in like a quantum state of being when it comes to mods. They generally allow them, but they're a bit wary about them. They don't prioritize them. And so Bethesda could have got this right easily with just a bit of consideration and care. All you have to do is reach out to all the big popular modders. You know their names. Many of them you've brought into the content creation club, right? And you're doing a revenue share with them selling the mods, but they still make other free mods. I mean, you could at least get those guys around the table. You didn't. They didn't communicate with anybody whatsoever from the modding community. Hey, we got this huge patch coming in after the TV show. It was obviously planned for launch with the TV show. They must have known. They didn't reach out to a single member of the modding community, or even if you don't want to go to that trouble, you put up a post on day one when it drops on Prime. Guys, we are going to be dropping a content update to Fallout 4 in a week to celebrate the TV show. This may interfere with some mods. If you make a mod and you're worried about this, reach out to us. They could have done that, but they didn't do that. And they didn't do that because Bethesda don't care. They don't even care about the games they make, which is why Starfield is absolute trash. So they certainly don't care about the improvements you make. So why would they ever give a fuck? And this is like especially frustrating because obviously, as I've talked about previously, Fallout London was meant to be coming. This is a highly anticipated Fallout 4 mod where people are going to get to go to London. It's meant to have all these like original content, original voice lines. Obviously, we very rarely explore outside of America and what happened. People have been working on this mod for years. It is a DLC-sized mod. It is huge. And after the disappointment of shit like The Frontier in, New Vegas, people want to see a good Fallout mod again. People have been as hyped for this as if it was going to be released as a new Fallout game. And they didn't even think... I mean, like, look, I don't play favorites. For sure, don't play favorites. But if you're going to... If the option is play favorites and reach out to the people making the big mod... that you know is coming, that's been advertised, reviewed, written about. If the option is reach out to them and only them, or no one, then reach out to them, please, for the community's sake. But Bethesda don't care. And let's just take a look at this essential upgrade. This is from Eurogamer, an article entitled, It Feels Like a Wasted Opportunity. And you can see here, it's bugged on Series XS, disappointing on PS5 and PC. And what they've done is they've actually done some side-by-side comparisons. Everyone is saying the PS5, where, by the way, the performance at launch was dog shit, and subsequent patches have sort of barely made it any better. I have a PS5. I actually bought a PS5 off a scalper, and I don't know why I ever did it. It's just a fucking Blu-ray player now. Like, I played about 3 games on it, and every game I played on it, I was thinking I could just play this on PC, actually, like, and it would just be so much better. Like, so I don't know. Like, I don't even know why I did it. More money than sense. But anyway, I can tell you that on PS5, Fallout 4's performance was dog shit. And so anyway, this is the PS5. Right, so look, on console, there have been some meaningful changes, but these are fairly limited in scope. There's nothing like RT support, which might have made the 30 FPS mode more attractive, and no HDR support either. with the game continuing to run in SDR instead. Furthermore, the Xbox Edition's performance mode toggle doesn't actually do anything at present. You're always stuck on the 60 FPS performance mode. So that's another aspect over on Xbox. The mode that they implemented with the patch doesn't even work. Their own mode that they updated the game for and broke all the PC shit for, so people on Xbox could have this mode. It doesn't even activate when you click on it. Again, these guys, they just don't give a fuck. And you can see here, this is like essentially what you're looking at. These are like, that's the Xbox performance mode disabled or enabled. Like, there just isn't any difference. And you're going to see that throughout all of these screenshots. A Brahmin appears in performance mode there. Like, remember, this is billed as a next-gen update. And look, I think Fallout 4, considering how old it is, I think it's still a pretty good-looking game. I mean, outside of the, human models, but like, look at what we're looking at here, guys. It's absurd. When you compare all three machines together, one thing is clear. Not all settings are a match for PC's ultra presets, as seen on a high-end RTX 4080 PC. Even on PS5, where higher settings do actually engage on its performance disable mode, there are obvious limits, including a shadow cascade, which doesn't match up to the highest PC preset. Instead, what we have on PS5, Series X and S, regardless of selected mode, is always equivalent to PC's medium shadow draw setting. It's the same as last-gen machines too. Likewise, shadow quality up close falls below the ultra preset, while geometry LODs across the world still don't match PC at its best. Now look, I wouldn't expect it to be the case, but if you bill it as a next-gen update and then it's the same as the previous generation, it's a problem. And remember, they broke all their shit to do this. You have this. This is the difference between the next-gen PS5 and the Windows 11 with ultra settings in 4K. And it's very embarrassing to sort of call it next-gen when you do the comparisons. So you sort of have to ask, like, what was it for? Like, why did this happen? Why would you do it now? Like, just as everybody's getting back into the game. And it's like, it's popular again, and everyone's talking about it. And people, just make content. Make good content. Because Lord knows there's a ton of shit content in Fallout 4. How sick would it have been if they dropped, how sick would it have been if they dropped, like, just a really big content patch? Maybe even incorporate some of the, fucking references from the TV series. I mean, look, none of this is the timeline's a mess and none of it's canon, and they can't even remember important dates in their own world. So whatever, fuck it. But you didn't do that. You just broke everything so you could give yourself a pat on the back about how much you care and look at us and look how we're doing good things. Just also for a bit of context, like, this is how little Bethesda care. And so Starfield is still a mess. There was a recent update to Starfield. Starfield is still a mess. It's still got tons of bugs. And there was an article a few months ago, end of last year, I want to say, which I just always think about when I think about Bethesda. Look at this. Starfield group fixing Bethesda's bugs say their job is tough as mods feel an afterthought. The only reason we can mod it already is because we've modded other games using the same engine and know what to do. Now, if you're a Starfield player, which I fortunately am not, I resisted the urge to let Todd Howard fucking bugger me senseless financially again. Trust me, it's always hard. It's that smile, that damn smile. But trust me, if you're a Starfield player, you will know how fucked up this game is and how many bugs are in it and how people are, like, how many mods you're having to download to sort of counter jank and in some cases, make the game interesting, And look, I'll just read you this. So the StarCraft community patch's goal is to improve the vanilla experience of Starfield for players by fixing everything from major bugs to spelling errors. Level of care, guys. So long as it presents some sort of issue for players of the base game. The scope, I mean, by the way, the chud who was raging about pronouns... Bro, at least they implemented it correctly. Like, what the fuck? Like, there's got to be something else to be angry about with Starfield, surely, my friend. Anyway, the scope of the patch doesn't include new content, balance changes outside of correcting obvious errors, or anything which doesn't fit with Bethesda's original vision for the game. The number of people contributing to the project has grown, but the team remains dedicated to keeping the patch small and self-contained while it's in the early stages. We want this patch to be community-owned, and we're going to get a jump on it first, and we're going to get our name out and get everything set up so that this will be it will be free this time. We're trying to keep it focused, have good tools for people, and try to serve the community. It's just crazy how, like, I can't think of a release from Bethesda actually where the community hasn't had to clean up their mess, or Bethesda haven't had to make some unbelievable changes just to keep consumers happy. It's mental how bad Bethesda are at this. So I just wanted to remind you about that, right? Because, listen, I wasn't going to let Bethesda get away from any sort of long stream banging on games devs. I think they're among the worst, actually.